Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about the 10th house, which deals with our career. It deals with where we spend most of our time in our life, because we may have families, we may have other issues going on, but where do we spend most of our time throughout our life? At our job, at our career. So we've got to recognize what is our purpose, and our purpose is relative to our work, our career, and this is the 10th house. The 10th house is actually the house that's called Karma Baba, because this is where we are finding ourself and our purpose, our dharma. Our dharma. This is the 10th house. So what all is the 10th house composed of? It can deal with our purpose, our social standing, because it deals with where we are publicly in the world, where people can visually see us the clearest. We're out there. It also deals with our reputation, how we appear to the world, what people think about us. That's the 10th house. It also deals with our boss, who we work for, the companies, the organizations we may work for, whether it's the government, whether it's a big corporation, whether it's a small business, whether we own our own business. These are all 10th house matters as well. And the 10th house has to do with conditions where how we relate to the boss, really. Whereas the 6th house will deal more with our conditions at work, the 10th house deals with our boss, our rise to the top, promotions. Anytime we get a pat on the back, we get recognized, recognition. This is all the 10th house. The 10th house is our social standing. So with that in mind, let's process all of the planets and see how this relates to your life if you have planets in your 10th house. And the 10th house makes planets really, really strong because it's an angle. It's a powerhouse. When planets are here, this represents extreme power. And there's certain planets that do really well in the 10th house, and probably the most important one is the sun. If you have the sun in the 10th house, it means you are a leader. It means you can't really take orders from other people because you're in charge, you know what's going on, and it's hard for you to be told what to do. You usually have the answer, and you can be a threat to your boss because you do have so much information and you are such a leader with the sun in the 10th house. My recommendation is you should have your own business if you have the sun in the 10th house. If you have the moon in the 10th house, remember the moon is the public. The moon is, when you have the moon in the 10th, this could mean fame, recognition. Everyone sees you. You could be recognized in your own field. Maybe it's not that you're world famous or on TV, but in your own circle of what you do, you're well known. This is the public. And you may do something to work with females. Sometimes it can mean you have a female boss, or it can mean that you do something meaningful for the feminine, for the world, and you're very sensitive. Very, very, very sensitive with the moon in the 10th house. You perceive how everyone perceives you, and you receive that back. If you have Mercury in the 10th house, this is an important planet for the 10th house, dealing with career. Mercury is how we relate and communicate to people, how we process information. This is so important in your work, to be able to process, to talk to people, to be in communications, to be in sales with Mercury in the 10th house. You're able to sell anything to anybody. You can talk about anything and make it seem important and like what everyone needs to have. You're a communicator. It's easy for you to talk. You love to travel. You love to go to work. You love to relate. That's all Mercury in the 10th house. If you have Venus in the 10th house, you could do something in beauty, design, fashion, creative, an artist. Somehow you're creating something all the time, whether it's in business or not. Venus has the need to express itself. In the 10th house, you will be creative. No matter what your job is, you will be creative with your job. And people will like you. You stand out. You appear beautiful. You appear graceful, charming. This is how you acquire more business, and your job is fun and you love what you do with Venus in the 10th house. If you have Mars in the 10th house, this is incredible for entrepreneurs. It makes someone very ambitious and driven and successful. Mars in the 10th house is a go-getter, and you're going to be at the top of your business or your career or your company. This is what makes people successful. Mars in the 10th house. Incredible. And you can't do things fast enough. You're always on the go. You're always ahead of everyone with everything you do in the workplace. And that breeds for great success as well. If you have Jupiter in the 10th house, then this means ultimately great success. It can mean that a business is empowered and given to you. Something to do with generosity. You get your foot in the door easily with Jupiter in the 10th house. It can also mean a philosopher or a teacher, someone that deals something with writing, with getting information in a big way, publications across to people. Remember that Jupiter in this house can represent speakers, leaders, teachers, anything to do with giving information, but being at the top with something. But it's also about opportunities, and you've been given many with Jupiter in the 10th house. If you have Saturn in the 10th house, don't kid yourself, Saturn does great in the 10th house. You have organizational ability, and you have the power to tell people what to do. So you're an organizer, you're a supervisor, you're at the top, and you have the discipline and the focus and the vision to make a business really come together and work. Why? Because you work hard. Saturn in the 10th house can also mean you work for the government, because Saturn is government. It's the higher order, and you are a part of that. So if you have Uranus in the 10th house, you're going to want an unusual career, and many times it can deal with technology, computers, anything to do with machinery. So this is Uranus in the 10th house. And it can also mean that you change jobs frequently. You know, one job leads to another and another. You won't stay situated in the same position for that long. If you have Neptune in the 10th house, hey, you could be in the oil business. But if that's not the case, it can even represent movie business, films, because Neptune deals with this greater awareness and creativity, imagination, something dealing with the arts in some capacity, glamour, beauty. And Neptune in the 10th house can deal with that you're either into photography or that you're photographed. That's what Neptune is all about, films and movies. And the illusion, making the illusion appear real. Can deal with, even if you deal with fluids or water of some sort, wine, beer, maybe you deal with pharmaceuticals. It deals with drugs. But also, do remember that oil is a liquid, and that's why many people in the oil business can have Neptune in the 10th house. As a matter of fact, the biggest, most powerful oil person ever in the world, which was the richest person ever, was Rockefeller. He started Standard Oil, and he had Moon conjunct Neptune in the 10th house. So if you have Pluto in the 10th house, you could work for major bureaucracies, powers, and Pluto is power. Maybe you are part of a world leadership and you are in power and CEO, company head or something, that you are in a position to give out orders and you're in control. And if you have Rahu in the 10th house, this is fantastic for career success. And especially if you ever go into Rahu's Mahadasha, that's when things, hit the roof, when your success will really peak. Rahu is all about the materialistic world. To have it in the 10th house makes you exceed, makes you powerful, makes you successful in your career and in your work. But Ketu is a different story in the 10th house. It can mean you have a very unusual, unique job and you cannot be confined to any office. You got to always be on the move because Ketu needs movement. Ketu is all over the place. And actually, Ketu in the 10th house could mean an astrologer, something unusual, something out of the norm, something visionary, something that can deal with spiritual enlightenment even. This could be a spiritual teacher with Ketu in the 10th house. But it's always something that's unique and unusual. And that can be very good. But it also means you may not stay in the same job, that you're constantly changing and there's fluctuations in your work. So with that, I hope you have a better comprehension of what planets in your 10th house can mean. If you're interested in learning more about my work, you can go to my website, which is galacticcenter.org. And if you're interested in learning astrology, now is the time. You have a great opportunity. I have a university that you can acquire certification, and you can go to that website, which is University of Vedic Astrology.com. Thank you.